to the Niche Pursuits Podcast. Are you ready to discover some niche business ideas that actually work? Well, it's time for a motivational kick to jumpstart your next big idea. Here's your host, Spencer Haas.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another Niche Pursuits Podcast. I'm your host, Spencer Haas from nichepursuits.com, and I've got Perrin with me as my co-host. Perrin, why don't you give us a shout out there?
It throws me off. I don't know how to do a real shout out. I'll just say hi. How's it going, everybody?
Good. Always friendly, always cordial. That's why we like you, Perrin.
Thanks.
So, yep, we're happy to be here. We're going to do another podcast episode related to Amazon physical products. We had lots of questions in regards to my last podcast, to my last blog post. And so today's going to be a little bit more of a Q&A style. We did answer, I think, some of the questions that people had last time, but we got lots more from people. So we're going to start diving into those questions. And of course, Perrin and I will kind of riff off of each other, and who knows what tangent we'll go on. But that's the general idea. We're going to cover some of the questions that you guys have regarding Amazon FBA, creating your own physical product, importing it from China, that sort of thing. Hopefully get you guys fired up and answer some of those questions. So should we jump into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, awesome. Before we do specific questions, there were a couple of sort of general either questions or topics that I think people would like us to expand a little bit based on feedback. And one of those is just that I personally wanted to cover is our plans for expansion outside of Amazon. So Amazon is a huge platform, and people are doing millions and millions of dollars of sales on Amazon. So there's no need per se to go outside of Amazon. But just from my own experience with Google and the possibility of getting penalized on Google with my niche websites, everybody's familiar with Penguin and Panda, constantly updating. I have the same mindset now with Amazon. Yes, it's a great platform right now, and I expect it to be that way for many years to come. But if you're 100% reliant and they change their algorithm for how they rank your product or they penalize your business is gone. And so I am taking a long-term view with my particular product to expand it outside of Amazon. And one of those things that we touched on last time was building an e-commerce site. And I think that that's very important for, people that want to make a long-term business out of this, is to build up your own platform. So we're going to be writing information articles related to our particular niche to drive in that traffic from areas outside of Amazon so that we can get, whether that's Google traffic or we do some social media traffic or try to do something that goes viral. We have our own platform, and we can sell lots of products directly from our own website. And so I think that's a very important mindset for people to have. It's one that we do have. So as we talk about, it's an Amazon FBA business, an Amazon physical product. It's not just an Amazon business. We want to go much, much bigger. So I don't know if you have anything you want to jump in right away, but I have a couple other points I want to cover as well.
Yeah, for sure. So I think I was getting some questions privately about the purpose of the website and how it's going to play into selling the product, and it got me thinking a little bit. And we addressed some of this in the last podcast about, taking up more real estate in the SERPs or using your website to drive traffic to your Amazon pages. But I also think that something we didn't cover that's important to mention is that having a website in the market in which you are selling products gives you an opportunity to write content about problems and solutions. And that's something you can't do on Amazon. So, on an Amazon page, you have a product and you can write a really big, long description, but it's all going to be about that product and sort of the benefits and features of whatever that thing is you're selling. If you have a website, you can write 50 articles about the problems that your target market might be having and set yourself up as a brand and authority in that way instead of just selling stuff. So if you are building a site about foot care and basketball shoes, I'm just pulling this out of the air, you could write about arch support or how to take care of your feet or, the best shoes for athlete's foot or whatever it is, and wrangle those people who are searching in Google for problems and point them to your product or establish yourself as an authority in their eyes. So I think it's another important point that you can gain influence and really solve people's problems, and that's a good way to get people to buy your stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you think about the big picture, Amazon is just one marketing channel. People shouldn't think about it as an Amazon business. They should think about their product as their business and lots of different marketing channels that they can use. Amazon is just one of those. To give people an example, my particular product was getting viewed about anywhere from 25 to 40 times a day. Something like that was the number of page views on Amazon. Amazon is nice enough to give you some analytics to see how many people are actually visiting your page. So, I'm getting 25 to 40 people a day from Amazon looking at my page. On the other hand, if we create a website, hopefully we can get much, much more traffic than that. And those are going to be people that aren't even on Amazon at all, right? So it's a completely different marketing channel. These are people that are just searching on Google or maybe on social media, and something we say attracts them to our website. And hopefully we're getting 200-300 visitors a day, and a certain portion of them are going to be interested in the product that we actually sell. So the conversions are going to be lower from our website, but it's another marketing channel. Same with, Facebook. That's one marketing channel. We could be doing paid advertising on Facebook. And then to expand even further, we're going to be selling our product, hopefully, long term, this is the vision, to sell our product on other shopping websites. So eBay, we can set up an eBay store and work it very similar to Amazon. And there's other stores that honestly I haven't dove into too much, but things like shopping.com, overstock.com, all these other places that are websites where people buy stuff. These are places we could be selling our product. I would imagine there's at least a dozen others out there that are like Amazon. No, they're not as big as Amazon, but maybe I could be selling one unit a day on all of these other combined places. So all of these are just marketing channels. To kind of give a comparison to people in the internet marketing niche, there are certain people that sell products, a lot of products, just on the Warrior Forum. That is their business, man. They go on and they do a Warrior Forum special offer, and they sell hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of that product, right there. Or they do a forum special offer, and they do these continual launches where they go to these places where they already know traffic exists, like Amazon, and they sell their product there. But there's so much traffic outside of that. And I know this because the first time that I ever offered Longtail Pro for sale, I did it on the Warrior Forum. I did a Warrior Forum special offer, and that's how I kickstarted my own business. Now, it's been a really, really long time since I've actually sold any of my software on the Warrior Forum or other internet marketing forums, but that's one marketing channel that some people have exposed, and they build their complete business, on that marketing channel. Since then, I've built up longtailpro.com. I have this whole other entity, this other platform, and I drive traffic to it from nichepursuits.com, from social media, from other affiliates and other blogs that mention me. And I sell a lot of software because I have my own platform. So that's the same idea here, is that Amazon, yes, is one platform that we can sell the product on, but an individual website could be just as big. We could be selling just as much product from people that wouldn't even be going to Amazon right on our own website. So I just wanted to bring that up. Our own website, eBay, Overstock, half a dozen other places. That's the big picture. It's not just an Amazon business. It's our own product. We're going to build it up and sell it wherever we can.
Yeah, and I think the really important thing to note there is thinking about the product as your business and not Amazon FBA as your business, because a lot of people do that. As they think about getting into FBA, they basically try a bunch of different products and they see which one sticks, and then they just kind of keep doing it until they sell out or it stops working. And the problem with that is that it can disappear overnight, and I think it's even more risky with Amazon than it is with something like Google, because as we saw with the first ebook that we produced, a couple negative reviews, even if they're fake on Amazon, which appears to be a pretty big problem, can just destroy your rankings. And if that happens, what do? It's really difficult to handle, and a malicious person could just spend the money and buy your product and give you a negative review. But if you own your own media, or if Amazon disappears tomorrow, they go bankrupt or whatever, and you already have a site that's getting traffic, and you already have a manufacturing company and a logistics company, it's a relatively small change just to put everything on your site. That's maybe a couple days of work. If you didn't have a site or any other media or any other platform and Amazon went away, your business would be reduced to $0 in income. And that's definitely something we want to avoid. I also think it's just part of an attitude of building a bigger defensible business instead of getting into whatever fad is working right now, which is also something we want to avoid. It's approaching it from a risk management mindset, I think.
Absolutely. And so hopefully people understand where we're coming from. Just give them a big picture, something hopefully they can think about in their own business. So the next subject that we wanted to move on to before we get into the questions, and I guess, again, this is actually brought up to us by some readers, so it is a question, but some clarification on the importance of being the one. I did a huge blog post on that, and just the importance of making your product slightly different, and that seems to be a hang-up for some people in that they think you need to come up with this revolutionary, extremely original idea in order to be the one. Mm-hmm. And that's not really the case. I've tried to stress that really the importance of being the one is just having a slightly different feature, building your product maybe out of a slightly different material, or having a stronger type material or more padding. Having just a slightly different feature can help you to be the one. So I don't know, Perrin, you want to dive into this? Because I know you've had some discussion with readers about maybe where the hang up is.
Right. Yeah. So one reader in particular has a niche website where he's promoting a very particular kind of product. And he's thinking about getting into FBA, especially after listening to a few of our podcasts. And, it's kind of all over the internet. There are a lot of people having success with this. And he was thinking about, or he was, asking how he would be the one. And we were just kind of spitballing ideas. And I was like, well, what if, you could do this feature or this feature or this feature. There doesn't seem to be anybody doing those. And you could see if there's a demand for it. And he was like, yeah, but how do I become the one? And after talking with him for a while, I kind of realized that a lot of people have this idea that the one means that you are the best and biggest and most important, or you're doing something radically different. And you can be that guy. Differentiation exists on a spectrum. You can be Apple. It just takes, a bunch of venture capital to get there probably. For us doing small-time FBA businesses, the one probably just means taking some sort of different angle, and it can be very, very, very simple. So to keep with the basketball shoes example, it might just be selling a shoe that has Velcro instead of laces. Or maybe there's a certain model of shoe and it doesn't come in pink. You could test that to see if there's demand for it by maybe doing some keyword research or looking at the reviews of other products to see what the customers want. Then you would call a manufacturer and ask if they can do it. If they can, then you would be one of the few people on Amazon selling that thing. And that's a way to be different. And Spencer, I know your brother was doing something that was, trying to take a unique angle, but doing it in a slightly different way.
So I have a couple examples. I'm not going to share the specific product, but my brother is trying to create a product, and he's come up with a unique way of using it. And I guess it's hard to give this example without giving away the product, but he's actually been able to take an existing product without any changes whatsoever, very, very minor changes, something that the manufacturer can do anyways, right? So no changes whatsoever to what the manufacturer is already producing, but he's using it in a different market. Instead of selling it, again, to athletes, he's selling it to stay-at-home moms or something. It's really, right, I guess, hard to explain, but it's for what his product will be called, it's a very unique design. But it's the exact same design that's used in a different market for a different purpose. Okay, so that's one example that my brother's doing. Again, it's maybe hard to visualize for people listening, but another example, kind of dovetailing off of what you said earlier about different color. I mean, let's say you want to do a foam roller. I was looking at foam rollers earlier today, and most of them are black, I think. Maybe you could try doing a camouflage foam roller, and maybe people would want that. You would be the one foam roller that is camouflage. Now, that would be super simple to do, probably. Your manufacturer doesn't have to change any type of, equipment. They probably just have to put the finish in camouflage instead of black. So that's an example. Another one that I actually just thought of, and again, Perrin, I think you maybe showed me this example of the company Bee's Knees Spicy Honey.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, they create honey, but all they did is put a chili pepper in it. And now they have spicy honey. So
and that's their one product.
That's their one product, and they do one thing just a little bit different. They're just putting, jalapenos or whatever it is in their honey. And so it's slightly different. So I don't know. Hopefully that lets people, you don't have to do something complicated. You don't even have to tell your manufacturer to change anything they're doing necessarily. They might already be producing this product, but if you can do a slightly different color, put a finishing touch, add more padding, add a slightly different feature, suddenly you become the only person on Amazon selling that product.
Yeah, and I think the reason we really wanted to cover this is that I heard from a couple people who were getting hung up on it so much that it was stopping them from doing business. So, they were afraid that they weren't innovating enough, that they weren't making a crazy enough product or differentiating themselves in a big enough way. It's like, no, man, just do something simple and be a tiny bit different at the very least, and you'll have much better odds. That's the point.
I think so. So hopefully that clarifies for everybody listening in out there about how to be the one. It doesn't have to be revolutionary, but if you can be slightly different, you're going to be ahead of the ball game. I will just say that there's so many people selling on Amazon that are a straight copy. They're a strict private label, and they make tons of money. So
sure,
it's not a requirement to make money to be different. There's lots of people that are doing straight private label whatever, and they're doing very well. But if you want to stand out and just make your marketing a little bit easier and give yourself a better chance, you can do something slightly different. So, all right, let's move into some questions that we got, some comments on our most recent blog post, other questions that we've heard. We have a few written down here, Perrin. Why don't you give us one that maybe you want to tackle first?
All right, let's see. I had one this is actually a question that I was asking myself, because you know what happens when I finish a work day, especially if we are kind of in the throes of getting into something new and exciting like FBA. I'm like laying on my bed staring at the ceiling, and I get just all these brilliant ideas, and my idea was like, why even go through Amazon? If we're starting a site anyway, why don't we just cut out the middleman, which would be Amazon, and sell the product ourselves? Wouldn't that make us more money? And you had a really good answer to that when I brought it up to you. So why don't you talk us through that one?
Absolutely. And you mentioned specifically Andrew Udarian, who is doing just that,
yeah.
Right? He's taking the product from his manufacturer, selling it directly on a site. And so he's, in a way, maybe he's cutting out that middleman. And I simply said that I think he's just drop shipping, so he's not selling his own brand of product. He's actually selling brands that already exist that the manufacturer is producing, and he's having them drop ship it to his customer. So he makes the sale on his website, but then the manufacturer or whoever he has is packaging that product. He's shipping it out. So he's actually somebody else is fulfilling the sale of that. So that same sort of middleman is actually still kind of there. It's not Amazon, but he's still having to pay his manufacturer or his, packer and shipper to do that. And in addition, because he hasn't actually created his own brand of product, he's not selling the Andrew Udarian boat motor. He's selling the whatever brand boat motor that already exists.
Right.
His margin probably isn't quite as high because it's not his own product. He has to still pay some sort of royalty or fee to sell the other brand's products. So I don't think that there's as much margin there in drop shipping, at least, right? So I don't know if that specifically answers your question, but yeah, that's kind of my stab at it.
Yeah, it does. I don't think that's to say that we'll never try it. I mean, Andrew is making a killing over there.
Yeah.
It just, FBA is a little bit easier and the margins seem a little bit higher. And currently what we like about FBA, even though we're doing our own site, is that Amazon does tons of marketing for you.
Right.
Especially if your product is converting, so it's speedier. Here's another question we got a bunch. And that is, can you do this in other countries? And, we don't know for sure, and we don't know the different countries. But last podcast, or I guess 2 FBA podcasts ago, I don't know which exact podcast it is, but we'll figure it out. I think 53, actually, where we had Chris Guthrie on talking about FBA. He said that in the course that he took, which is the Amazing Selling Machine, there are people in there doing it in hundreds of different countries. I mean, do you know anything else about that, Spencer?
I know just a little bit. I haven't researched it a lot, so I would advise people to kind of research this. In the back end of your Seller Central on Amazon, I went in there and Amazon said, hey, do you want to sell your product in other countries? And so me being in the US, I can ship my product to the UK, to Australia, Canada, so that's another way that I can expand my own business. But the reverse is very true. Anywhere that Amazon is located, you should be able to ship your product. So if you're located in Australia, Amazon's going to have a warehouse for Amazon Australia. You can do the exact same thing. I haven't done this, but I'm pretty sure, and I've heard lots of other people saying that yes, you can. If you live in any country where Amazon exists, you can do the exact same Amazon FBA. Now, I can also see no reason. Let's say you live in a smaller country where, Amazon is very small. And so you can do Amazon FBA there. But let's say you want to break into the US market. Well, I see no reason why you can't ship your products to the US, to an Amazon US warehouse, and create your listing, in Amazon US. I see no reason whatsoever why people can't do that.
Yeah, we're pretty new to this business, so maybe somebody listening can tell us, but maybe there's some money in that. Maybe that's a way to be the one. Is that, this product is selling really well in the US, but it's not selling at all in Brazil. Mm-hmm. Someone's got to sell it in Brazil. Maybe there's money in that. I mean, we know lots of guys like Hayden Miyamoto who will take his business and just expand to different countries, go after this very similar keywords in different languages. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there's money somewhere in that idea with the FBA program, whether it's, someone living in the US and selling to smaller markets in other countries, or somebody in another country realizing that most of the money is in the US and selling it here. I mean,
yep.
There's no limitations to your location. You just have to get the product to the correct warehouse.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say that I plan on doing just that. Right now, I'm only selling on Amazon.com in the US, but as soon as my product continues to sell well, I will expand to every single country that I'm allowed to. Right. I'll start with the bigger ones. I'll start with the UK, or start with Australia, or start with Canada. And if it's selling well there, I'll start moving in, to Brazil and Mexico. And there is absolutely no reason not to do that. So, yeah.
For sure, yeah. So here's one of the questions that I think is really important, because it seems to me that a lot of our readers are interested in this. I mean, we got tons of comments over the last couple articles and podcasts that we posted on Niche Pursuits. So there's a lot of people interested, and I think a lot of people just want to get a feel for a product without having to throw down a couple $1,000s. So this question came up in the comments of the last podcast, and I thought it was really good because I hadn't considered it yet. Is there a way to estimate the costs without actually ordering a product?
So they want to know the costs of actually getting it manufactured and everything else associated with it?
Yeah, I think so. And maybe there's not. I don't know. But from your point of view, Spencer, do you think there's a way to do the research and to estimate your costs without having to order it, and then maybe even to estimate your profit, so that instead of spending a couple $1,000s to see if it'll work, Yeah,
absolutely. You can do that. Yeah, pretty easy. Just go over to Alibaba.com, contact a few manufacturers, and ask them what it costs. Honestly, it's as easy as that. I mean, that's pretty much the first email I send to everybody. I say, I want 100 units of this. What's the cost? And they'll come back and they'll say it's going to cost $8.07 per unit.
Right.
And there you go. You got your cost. So it's very easy to get a cost estimate without ordering anything. Most of those manufacturers that I sent an email to, I said, okay, I'm not going to move forward. I only move forward with one of those manufacturers. And so so manufacturing costs is super simple. You just email some manufacturers. Getting shipping costs, you can do the same with a logistics company. You can, ask if you can get a price quote for this much product, etc. So you can do the same there. And then you can also do the same with Amazon FBA. I'm sure there's a calculator somewhere to estimate what Amazon FBA fees and commissions will be. But it's, they use a standard formula, some percentage of whatever price you're selling at, plus a, pick and pack fee. All of that can be calculated somewhere. Unfortunately, I don't have that resource available right now, but I'm sure it's available online that people can get.
For sure. So for those of you listening, if you wanted to do that, the things that you would have to know are the manufacturing cost, the logistics cost, and the cost that the FBA program will take for every product that sells. And then probably the next step in your research is just to see what is selling on Amazon and at what price, and then figure out if that general margin is going to be worth it for you. Of course, it's going to be a guesstimate. You never quite know what price you're going to end up at. You might have to drop it or you might be able to raise it, but that might be a good place to start. And all it takes is a handful of emails.
Exactly. And you're right that it's always going to be a bit of a guessing game as far as how much are you going to sell and how well are other products selling. The nice thing is you can see that Amazon bestseller rank. So you can see if they're ranked in the top 100 or if they're ranked in the top 10,000 or if they're over 100,000. If they're over, 50 or 100,000, maybe that's not a product that's selling very well. But even if it's, below 20,000 or 10,000 in the larger category, it's probably selling a few units a day at least. So it just kind of depends on your product if that's worth it or not. So yeah, hopefully that answers people's questions. You can definitely get cost estimates and you can do some very basic profit calculations, but you'll never know until you actually start selling the product.
Sure. Yeah. Here's a different question. What about samples? Where do you get samples? How do you get samples? What's the importance of a sample? Do you really need one? And if so, how important is it? Or what are you looking for when you get that sample?
Yeah, so a sample is definitely very important. You want a sample because the way you get it, again, is just through Alibaba. You contact a few manufacturers, and that's the first thing you do before you make a decision to go with a manufacturer is you ask them for a sample. I did some searching, and I finally found one that produced my product exactly like I wanted it, and I said, great, can you send me a sample? The reason you want a sample is so you can check out the product. You can see if it's good enough quality, if it actually meets your needs. I mean, it's one thing to look at pictures online. It's another thing to hold it in your hand, to test it out and see if it actually is the quality product that you want. So it's vitally important. I would never, ever order a large batch of product and start selling it to other people without actually seeing what the product is, without actually holding it in my hand. So I think you had a couple other questions. Yes, it's vital. You can just do it through Alibaba.com. I have also heard that you can go to AliExpress.com where they essentially allow you to buy one-off products just through an easy-to-use interface. You just go like a shopping cart, order one product, and then you can contact the manufacturer behind that. So that is one way to go. I didn't do that. I just went to Alibaba, exchanged a few emails. I sent them money via PayPal, and then, I got the product 2 or 3 weeks later.
And they just ship you one, right?
They just ship you one product through the mail system, whether that's DHL or whatever, system they're using. And
you're basically looking for like overall quality in that one feature that you're looking for, and just to make sure it's not a, total POS before you spend a bunch of money on it. Right?
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. You want to be able to check out the product, make sure it meets your demands, meets your needs.
Cool. Yep. So This is another question. This is from, I can't remember the name, but this is a really good question. It's something I don't know about. I don't know if you know about it either, Spencer. Maybe you do, but one of our commenters apparently knew a lot about it. So I'm probably just going to read his comment. But the question was, can you source stuff in the U.S.? Is there an option besides China? Because, if you did, freight would be probably a whole lot cheaper and there might be some margin there. So
Yep.
we have a commenter named John and he didn't leave his email, so we weren't able to follow up with him, but he has a pretty big Amazon business and a very healthy 5 figures, and he sources all of his products from the U.S., and he says this: there are many different but valid reasons for sourcing in the U.S. Some products aren't available in China. Some products are cheaper in the U.S. Sometimes you may want to compete with Amazon and sell a name brand item if the price is right. Some branded products on Amazon have 2050 quote-unquote new offers on the same product page. This is one of the very neat things about private labeling, though, because he likes to private label his products. Once you private label a product, your only competition is a similar product, and no one else will be competing. So the answer appears to be yes, but I don't know much more than what I'm hearing from John. Do you know anything else, Spencer?
Yeah, definitely. There are lots of manufacturers here in the U.S., so absolutely, that's an option. You can, and boy, I wish I had the resources with me, but I know, you can just Google, and there's one particular website that is a directory for manufacturers. Let me see if I can find it. I don't know if that's possible, but ThomasNet, I believe, is the one that I was familiar with. Yeah, if you go to thomasnet.com, this is essentially a listing of all the manufacturers in the U.S. There's over 700,000 of them, at least it says on their website. So yeah, there's tons of manufacturers in the U.S., tons of suppliers. And what's great about working with somebody in the U.S. is you can just pick up the phone and talk to them. They're going to be English speaking, super easy to communicate with. They're going to be more likely to be able to customize things because, again, that communication barrier is not there. And in fact, I know for sure that Jake, who is the marketing director for Longtail Pro, he's also doing an Amazon FBA business, and he's contacted some manufacturers here in the U.S. for a new product that he's developing. So you definitely can. The pluses are going to be the communication, more likely to get some customization there. And then another huge benefit is the shipping. It's going to be a lot cheaper to ship it because they're going to put it on a truck and ship it over to you instead of going over an ocean and doing all these customs things and all that sort of thing. So a lot of big benefits to developing in the U.S., and I may be looking into that myself. The downsides are usually going to be, cost is pretty much going to be the only downside. It's usually going to be more expensive, and that is probably because of the labor costs. It's just more expensive to hire somebody here in the U.S. than it is in China. So there you go.
For sure. And I guess one other benefit would be avoiding the problem that we are having now, which is being out of inventory and having to wait like 3 weeks because the freight takes so long.
Yeah.
So that's another major benefit.
Good point. Absolutely. Maybe you're convincing me that maybe I should stop looking in China. But no, that's some very valid points for people to consider. And in fact, I know I've listened to another podcast where somebody always does their first sort of sample batch of 100 or 200 units. They always go within the U.S. just because they can get it out quicker, they can test it much faster, and it's less expensive shipping. And then at that point, they may figure out if they're going to scale it large, how can they reduce costs? And a lot of times that does include going over to China.
Yep, for sure. So that's just something to look at. Cost estimation won't be any different. You're still going to be looking at manufacturing cost and shipping costs, but it'll be a little bit more convenient. So you could probably look at all of your options. Speaking of manufacturers, here's another good question. What kind of due diligence do you perform to verify a manufacturer or trading company's credit or trustworthiness or kind of non-scamminess? How do you protect yourself against the vultures out there?
Yeah, great question. So that is one of the great things about Alibaba.com is that they allow you to select some options that give you higher quality providers, higher quality manufacturers. And there's 4 or 5 options. You can check boxes. Essentially, when you search at the top of the search or at top of the page, there's these 4 options. You can check a box for only show manufacturers that have had an on-site check by an outside firm. So this is, a third party has come in and made sure this is a legitimate manufacturer. So you can check that box. You can select the assessed supplier. Again, quality check done by a third party. You can check the box for gold supplier, which just says they've been pre-qualified. I don't know all the details there. And then trade assurance. That just means that they've been on time with their shipments and that they will refund you up to some covered amount that's agreed upon. And there's some other things. So Alibaba has done a lot of their own due diligence to allow you to filter by manufacturers that meet these quality guidelines. So that's what I've done. I haven't done anything beyond that. I'm sure that some potential bad suppliers might still get through, even if you check all these boxes. So it's still a little bit up to yourself to do your own due diligence, if you will. But that's what I've done is I've relied on Alibaba to provide me with the best manufacturers. So far, it's worked well for me. And so that's one step that people can use.
Right. What I heard from a couple commenters and also some people who I was talking to at the last Trafficking Conversion Summit was that there are very few scams out there. Nobody's completely trying to rip you off. The main obstacle is quality standards and production standards. So in the US, we're very used to a certain production quality, and some manufacturers may not live up to that, but that's why you get samples. So pretty easy. The last question that we have, maybe you have a couple more, Spencer, but the last question that we have written down here is something that we've also been asked, and I think it's important because this is the way a lot of people are getting into FBA, but are there any courses out there that you can take? If there are, what are they? And how necessary is it, or how useful is it in your opinion?
Yeah, so there definitely are a lot of courses that are out there that people can take. And to be honest, I'm not going to recommend any one particular course today because I haven't taken any of them. And so I don't feel comfortable recommending any courses. But, people can do their own searching, I guess. I mean, one that's very well known, and again, I'm not endorsing this or saying you should take this, is the Amazing Selling Machine. In fact, I don't think you can take it. It's closed. They only open it up for a certain amount of time, and it's closed, and so you can't even take that now. So it's not an option. But that's one. I think there was a commenter that talked about another one. Honestly, I don't know. That's the only one I know by name. If you did some Google searching, you could find lots of courses. Yeah.
There are some pros and cons, I think. The course gives you a step-by-step plan if that's what you're into. It's also very expensive. And I think so far we have proven, or at least Spencer has proven, that it's very possible to do it and succeed in the same way without taking anything. There are just a couple things to figure out. And I think we're helping you figure out a lot of it. And I think, between our readers and ourselves, we are uncovering the obstacles that people are having and kind of figuring them out as a group, as like a niche pursuits community. So, I know a lot of people who have taken the course and they absolutely loved it. But, we haven't taken any courses at all and we're doing just fine.
Exactly. I don't think it's required for most people, especially if they're like me. I learned from doing, and that's, always worked very well for me. I mean, to be honest, I can't look back on a single course that I've taken that's really helped me in my business. I've taken very, very few. I learned how to build niche websites on my own. I learned how to create, software, not being a programmer, and how to run a software business all on my own. Learned how to blog on my own, learned how to podcast on my own, and now Amazon FBA. I don't think I'm special. I'm not. I learned by doing, and I think that people can do the same for the most part. The thing that is attractive about some of these courses is just the community that's surrounded, that is involved, where you can ask people questions. But I think that there's free forums, there's other communities, blogs that people can interact with and get most of their questions answered anyways.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, that kind of wraps it up for me.
Cool.
I think what I'd like to ask the readers to do is, leave questions in the comments. This is new to us. We are really enjoying getting into this. and we're pretty excited about it. It seems like a lot of you are too. And I don't think we're only going to be podcasting about it, but we're certainly going to be talking about it more in future podcasts. So let us know in the comments what other questions you have, or give us some success stories or other things that you'd like to hear us talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to have a discussion with our readers, and I think we're doing that here. Whether it's about this subject, or we're going to get back to, of course, talking about our authority site and our Kindle books, and then all sorts of other subjects as they come up. Again, it's all about niche pursuits. Whatever that small niche business idea that I'm pursuing at the time is where the podcast is going to take us. So we're listening to your feedback, but at the same time, I'm involved in a lot of different things, and I'm just excited to talk about my business and share what I'm learning along the way. So hopefully everybody listening in has learned a few things here today, or at least enjoyed the discussion and helped them think about their own business a little bit more. So any parting words of wisdom from you, Perrin, today?
Maybe just parting words. That's thank you. Not very wise, but there you go.
Always wise words to thank others. No, thank you. We do appreciate everybody listening in. If you want to follow along and read the comments and get involved in the discussion, we highly encourage you to do that over at nichepursuits.com. Overall, best of luck in your business, and thanks again for listening in.